What is up, and welcome to a definitive guide on how to start reading, what to choose when you're just starting reading, and how to actually take away psychological lessons from the books that you read without looking for metaphors, onomatopoeia, juxtaposition, oxymorons, anything like semantic fields. School has taught you the wrong way to read by giving you a Macbeth snippets that you'll never understand because of the Shakespearean language within them. Therefore, I'm going to give you 5 amazing books to start with. So now let's start with my top 5. Book number 1 is, obviously, 1984 by George Orwell. Now, this is a bit of a cop-out choice because literally everyone in the self-improvement scene talks about 1984 and how the world is becoming more dystopian like 1984 and how some of the predictions are wrong and how George Orwell was a really bad guy during his life. However, what you can take from this book is that most people who speak about it have never read it actually. They've never actually engaged themselves in the story. It's a really captivating story, not just about a dystopian world, but about a guy who's living a very, very depressing life and then finds a woman, has sex with the woman in the forest, but then realizes that she has betrayed him all along. No one discusses this when talking about 1984 on their self-improvement channel. And you're going to go through the 300 pages of the book wondering how it's going to end for Winston Smith. Now, the next book we have on the list is a self-improvement non-fiction book, which are usually easier to read for newer beginners than fictional books because you just flow through it easily. It's usually formatted in small paragraphs that you can gain bite-sized information from, whereas books you really have to think about what you're reading and cut it down yourself in your mind. This one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. This one particularly good because it takes anecdotes from hundreds of people that Dale Carnegie, as a university professor and as a very, very successful guy, has spoken to over his life. And you can read about how he's met the president and all the talks that he did by taking the actionable steps at the end of each paragraph. So this book is really easy. Self-improvement books will also be very readily available in the audiobook format. For example, Atomic Habits, around 6 hours long. You can just listen to the first 2 hours and that'll still be more effective than anyone who isn't reading. And now I am going to give you my number 1 book of all time. That is literally my favourite. Cancer Ward by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It's a Russian book translated into English. Make sure you get this little penguin guy on it because that is a good translation. Now, this book is actually a journey because you'll never know who the main character actually is. It changes throughout. It introduces you to Pavel Nikolaevich. However, 100 pages in, you'll be wondering, why did they introduce me to Pavel Nikolaevich if Kostoglatov is the main character? But then you realise Kostoglatov is not the main character. So, this book is set in the Soviet Union, in the USSR, very, very difficult times. Russia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Belarus, deprived countries at that time. It's set in a cancer ward, as you can tell. It's called Cancer Ward in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And the book fills you with imagery of how difficult it must have been to live in those times, especially in a cancer ward, where many, many people are dying and being replaced in an endless cycle. It really goes in depth and introduces you to every single one of the personalities in that cancer ward. And a few of them die, and a few of them leave, and a few of them really teaches you how different people deal with extremely difficult situations. These people are dying. They have cancer. And it also talks from the point of view of the nurses in the hospital, which is very interesting. No one that you'll probably meet in the next few years will know the book. However, you can spread your wisdom. Let's get to it. Now, probably the easiest book for everyone to learn something from is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And it's purely because look how small the little motherfucker is. Tiny. Tiny. And it's spread into bullet points for you. Bullet points, chapters, everything. literal sentences are numbered. Therefore, anyone can get this book, pick it up, open it to any page, read it, think about it for a few minutes, and then realised, yeah, I know something that I didn't know before I picked up Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. And one thing that's very, very difficult to understand about this book is how much power Marcus Aurelius actually had at the time of being the Roman emperor. You were in control of like 15 countries maybe. And he had all the wealth he needed, all the things he needed, but still chose to think in a way that people would still remember and take wisdom from 2,000 years later. Think about how interesting that is. Usually, people from that time would have fallen down a path of dark despair and probably been assassinated. I'm talking about you, Julius Caesar. Now, the last two books on the list is a tie because I don't have the physical copies. However, the book's really good. The Stranger, Albert Camus, and Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Two completely different books. I will link the audiobooks that are available on YouTube in the description. You can get through these in a day or two. And they are full of psychology. One thing which I completely disagree with is the mindset of reading 10 pages a day as a sort of thing to build consistency and discipline. And while this sounds like a good idea, you already have enough habits to actually build your discipline with. So why just add another one? Why just add another one? Just create an amazing atmosphere while you're reading with lighting LEDs, with some incense sticks, and this is my incense stick, this is my dragon. Look at that guy, look how cool he is. And once you do that, you're going to read way more than 10 pages once you actually get in the comfortable position with the amazing atmosphere. And this doesn't have to be every day. Also, reading fiction before bed is going to improve your sleep because your brain is going to be creating fictional stories which will drift you away from the real world and get you to bed. Another thing which will help you sleep is the supplement stack in my other video. Make sure you watch that other video. However, reading some money, finance books like Unscripted by MJ DeMarco, reading some finance books right before bed can be detrimental to your sleep because your brain will constantly be thinking about how poor you are and how much you need to change and how, oh, I cannot sleep now, I need to work harder. Maybe the next day will be worse. So, fiction before bed, non-fiction in the morning for motivational purposes only. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Get reading.